Hello there everybody, welcome to this week's edition of The Verdict, which will major on the Sky Bet Ebor Festival from York. We'll pick one race from each of the days, Wednesday through to Saturday, and then we'll pick up another couple of races as well, one from Kempton Park and one from Salisbury as well. So lots to go at. As you might imagine, it was difficult to choose races from York. Such was the quality on display last week, but I hope that we've chosen ones that will be of interest to you throughout the course of the show. Let's start off with the best performance of the week, the best horse that we have seen for a very long time in Baaeed, who won the Juddmonte International. He was the 2-5 favourite, winning at 3.35. The winners at York on the day, Bergerac, Chaldine, Deauville, Legend took the Voltager, Alfred Butcher, who we'll talk about later on in the context of the Ebor Designer, and Streets of Gold as well. But it's Baaeed where we must start, and what a tremendous performance he put up to win the Juddmonte International. He was 2-5. Mishriff, who won it last year, of course, was a 4-1 shot. 8-1 for Native Trail. Dubai Honour was 33s. High Definition 40s, and Sabuska the outsider at 100-1. But it was all about Baaeed, this race, from stall number 6, beating Mishriff from stall number 5. And third home was Sabuska, picking up the pieces from stall 1. This is what unfolded before our very eyes, and this was a world-class performance, make no mistake. Sabuska missed the break. High Definition went to the front under Ryan Moore, and it looked like he was going to set a pretty healthy gallop out in front, but he didn't really. They went quite steady for a Juddmonte International. The final time was nothing flash, and the finishing speed percentage of 107.02 tells us not only that Baaeed is very quick and he finished the race off really strongly, but they didn't go that hard in the early part of the race. And although it looks like Ryan is really putting his pedal to the metal, he's not. He's not going that hard out in front. And Baaeed's got a lovely draft in, just sat under Jim Crowley, cruising along. Mishriff, who's run a really big race here, he's in a prime position to strike first, and indeed he does, but he has got no chance with Baaeed, who essentially wins this race on the bridle. It is a superb performance, and comparisons with Frankel are entirely legitimate, I think. He posted a time form speed figure here of 135. When Frankel won this race in spectacular fashion, he posted 136, just a spot bigger. This horse is probably just as good as the mighty Frankel, although he doesn't seem to be getting the same sort of accolades that horse got, maybe because he hasn't won a classic. Now Jim Crowley eases him into contention, and he destroys the field with his speed. This race became a bit of a speed test because they didn't go hard, and the pace picked up at the 7th furlong, and Baaeed went 10.99 seconds without coming off the bridle. Really impressive. And his final 3 furlongs also impressive. 34.85. He sprinted home whilst Jim Crowley can look at the big screen, salute the crowd, and he's won as he liked. Now, just to tell you how fast he's come home, you need to look at what Mishriff did on the course track sectionals. And Mishriff sprinted really well between the 3 and the 2, and the 2 and the 1. And he really ran very hard. I think he's a horse who's bang back to his best. But his final furlong was 12.75. Mishriff was completely and utterly legless as Baaeed came past on the bridle. That's how good Baaeed is. He's put away a very good horse in Mishriff, and he's won as he liked. Now, as I said, the final time's not flash, not Baaeed's fault. That's a fault of the pace that was set out in front, and he's won just pushed out, hands and heels. Sabuska picking up pieces for third place, the run of his life, and that's just what he wants really. He wants to be dropped out and come late and pick up pieces. Ascot suits him. The straight course at Ascot is a place that really suits Sabuska, but nothing in this field could live with the mighty Baaeed, who was highlighted here on The Verdict when he won his maiden. He won his maiden at Leicester, of course, and we suggested here on The Verdict that he might be a Group 1 horse. We didn't suggest he'd be a multiple winning Group 1 horse. We thought he might be a Group 1 horse. The sectionals pointed to that, and the sectionals here tell us that he is a very, very speedy horse. We analysed him when he won at Goodwood, when he took the Sussex Stakes. That was a steadily run affair, and his sectionals were really, really rapid in the closing stages, and they were rapid here as well. Any horse that can go 10.99 while still on the bridle is a superstar, and this fella belongs in that bracket. Where next? Not for me to say. Up to connections, but plenty in the mix now, seemingly. Irish Champion Stakes, possibly the Arc, the Champion Stakes at Ascot as well. They are all in the mix, but I find it very hard to think that whatever race he goes for, even the Arc, that anything can beat this fella. Here's the winners from the York Ebor Festival on Thursday. Swing Along taking the opener. Bit of a shock at 25s. Should have been a ring, was well back for the Richard Hannon team. 5-2 favourite. Blue for You. Favourite who came from off the pace in a strongly run affair at 3 o'clock. Alpinista took the Yorkshire Oaks. Haskell at 13-2 was given a brilliant ride by Ryan Moore to win the 4:10. Kaima at 8-1 took the 4:45. And winner for Harry Dunlop, A Day in Asia, winning at 11-1. But the feature event was the Yorkshire Oaks, and Alpinista was the winner, and she was the 7-4 favourite. Tuesday was 7-2. La Petite Coco was 4-1, 8-1 Magical Lagoon, and Raclette 10-1. 12s and bigger the bottom two, but it was Alpinista who prevailed in the Yorkshire Oaks for Sir Mark Prescott, Kirsten Rousing and Luke Morris. This is how it unfolded. Now, I'm going to be a bit lukewarm on this particular contest, not because I don't like Alpinista, not because I don't like Tuesday. I'm simply analysing what went on out there, and I think they're both better than they showed here, because this was a bit of a crawl and sprint race according to the numbers. That doesn't mean I'm denigrating the form. It doesn't mean that I'm not keen on the first and second home. It just means that the numbers tell us it was steadily run. The finishing speed percentage was 110.94. Remember, this is over a mile and a half. So what it's telling us is that Alpinista finished off the race 10.94% quicker in the final 3 furlongs than she ran the rest of the race. It was really, really steady out there. Magical Lagoon taking them along in the white cap. La Petite Coco towards the outside for Paddy Toomey, and Alpinista just tracking the pace with Tuesday tracking. And this very much turned into a sprint. I think it very much played against Tuesday. I don't think the Irish Derby showed her in her best light, and I don't think this race did either, and she's very much a horse to keep on side, for what she wants is a strong gallop, and when she gets one I think we will see a much better product than we saw here. But Alpinista beat her here because of her guts, her toughness, and she's got a fair amount of speed as well. She has to have, given the nature of this race. Steadily run, turns into a bit of a sprint, and she's come home pretty strongly. Her final 3 furlongs, 34.2 seconds. Tuesday was a shade quicker at 34.18, but Alpinista's got a length on her when that sprint starts, and that's why Alpinista finished ahead of her. Alpinista goes now to chase La Petite Coco. This is where the sprint starts, and she's got a length on Tuesday, and Tuesday cannot drag her back, and Alpinista quickens up in great style to win this pretty well under Luke Morris. Tuesday now is beginning to rally. La Petite Coco, boy did she want a stronger gallop. They tried to force it turning for home on her, but it wasn't strong enough gallop for her, and there's more to come for Paddy Toomey's filly, you would have thought. But once Alpinista's got to the front, she's not for catching, and I'm not surprised given the nature of the race and that she was the first to come home. 9 furlong for Alpinista, 10.59 seconds. That's really quick for a mile and a half horse. They don't often produce that sort of sectional in a strongly run race, but it wasn't strongly run. She'd saved loads of petrol, and she was able to sprint through the 9 furlong, and that gave her a bit of an advantage on Tuesday. He was trying to close down all the way to the line, but the way the race was run, she had an impossible task, and she's not to be written off. Magical Lagoon sticking to her guns out in behind, and also the same can be said for some of the others, but it's Alpinista who has now landed 5 Grade 1s on the bounce. She is an admirable, tough and consistent and game and talented mare, and the Arc is probably next for her. She's round about a 6-1 shot generally for the Arc, and that's probably where they will go straight off the bat. Probably no Prix Vermeil, Sir Mark was saying, possibly straight to the Arc de Triomphe. And it should suit her. A bit of cut in the ground, a strong test at 1.5 miles, and her guts will take her a long way in that race, for she is very game and she is very tough as well. Don't write off Tuesday going forward though. Things haven't panned out for her in the last couple of starts. It didn't pan out here, that's for sure. She's done by Alpinista, but she's definitely a horse to remain interested in going forward. Here are the winners from Friday at the York Ebor Festival. Farhan taking the opener at 20s. Quickthorn, 9-4, winner at 2.25 in the absence, of course, of True Shine and Stradivarius. Noble Style, 3-1. Highfield Princess taking the feature. The Nunthorpe at 5-1. State Occasion was a 3-1 winner of the 4.10. Desert Order, odds on to win the 4.45. And Point Liners narrowly getting up to win the last at 25-1. So let's have a look at the feature then. The Coolmore Wootton Bassett Nunthorpe Stakes, Group 1, 5 furlongs. Royal Acclaim the favourite, 5-2. Platinum Queen, a drifter in the market, 9-2 from 7-2. Highfield Princess, 5-1. 9-1 Cardem, Floaters 10s, 12s, and bigger the rest. And of course, it was Highfield Princess who prevailed. And she jumped out of stall 14. And she has got the better of the Platinum Queen. And in third place, Emiratiana, all drawn high here, so you needed to be high by the looks of things. They did drift across to the far side, but high draws were probably favoured somewhat. 14 beats 13 beats 11, and with that in mind, look at where the favourite is, Royal Acclaim, right down this side, whereas the first, second and third, here they are, 1, 2, 3. They're all this side, they're all towards the stand side. I think Royal Acclaim was disadvantaged in where she raced, and she got no cover either, and perhaps this run should be written off. In fact, she ran pretty well, all in all, for the James Tate team, but I certainly wouldn't write her off on the back of what happened here. But this was a domineering performance from Highfield Princess. Boy, is she good. She won the Jacques Le Marois last time up. She's won over 6 furlongs, she's won over 7 furlongs, and in 2020 she won off a mark of 58 in a handicap. The progression she has made is absolutely remarkable, and she's landed a Group 1 here over 5 furlongs in scintillating fashion. A fast final time, the final time 57.18. They were flying out there on fast ground. She's come home strongly with a final 3 furlongs of 33.27. Her 5th furlong, the best of the race, 11.96 seconds, and she's totally in control of this field of fast horses. There's some really good horses in here, Group 1 winners like Emiratiana, and she's absolutely destroyed them. She's run on really strongly. She's got to the Platinum Queen, who's run great. She hung a little bit left in the closing stages, but the winner has quickened up in really good fashion. She was the only horse to dip under 12 seconds in the final furlong, so if you think Emiratiana is finishing strongly, and she looks like she is, well, she's still not going as fast. He's still not going as fast as the winner, Highfield Princess, the only horse to go under 12 for that final furlong. Of the others, well, I think Emiratiana is slowly coming back to form. I think he was put on the back foot going to Meydan for a couple of runs at the beginning of the year, and he's gradually finding his form. And I think he could be a real force when it comes to Haydock and the Sprint Cup there. I think he's really finding his feet now, and he could be hard to beat going back there. Rascal was too keen. He was ridden quite prominently. He's normally sort of given a bit of a chance in his races. He was ridden prominently and he was too keen and couldn't get involved. But this mare in shot is a real credit to the John Quinn yard. She really is. She's got better and better and better with racing. She thrives on her work, and she has annihilated a very good Nunthorpe field in a fast time. It's form to be believed. Remember, however, the draw did play a part. Let's have a look at the winners at the York Ebor Festival on Saturday. And the 150, Alfela was the winner for Owen Barrow's Jim Crowley on board. Solcombe took the Melrose in a very fast time, 3-1 favourite. Kinross, a good winner for Rafe Beckett, 5-1. Chorlerman won the Ebor at 9-1. Frankie Dettori and John Thady Gosden. Summergand won the new sprint for the David O'Mara team, 15-2. Treasure Trove, a Paddy Toomey winner at 4-1. And Phantom Flight took the final race on the card, the 3-1 joint favourite. Let's have a look at the Ebor then. Trawlerman, 9-1 shot. Garcia went off favourite, very well backed actually, just in the hours before the race for the William Haggis team, 4-1. Earl of Tyrone for Paddy Toomey, 5-1. Candleford, 7-1. Alfred Boucher, who'd won earlier in the week, was an 8-1 shot for Ian Williams. Trawlerman, 9-1. Backed him from 12s, Yukon Glen 12s and 14s, and bigger the rest. And it was Trawlerman who prevailed under a really good ride from Frankie Dettori, I think it would be fair to say. He came out of stall number 20. So he's right over there towards the far side, and he's got the better of Alfred Boucher, the grey horse, who came from stall number 9, Earl of Tyrone, who was right next door in stall 8, and the fourth home was John Leaper, who's gradually finding his feet, I think, John Leaper now, and he was back in 4th place. And this was a notable race for the ride that Trawlerman got for. Frankie decided to plough his own furrow, go the Golden Horton, Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe route, and stay wide and gradually angle across. Now, why did these tactics work? Was it a stroke of genius from Dettori? What was it all about? Well, it was a good ride, it was a sensible thing to do, but he was aided by the fact that they didn't go a good gallop. They went very steady indeed, so he didn't have to use up a lot of petrol out wide before angling across. It's not like he has to go really hard and sprint down the outside of the field and then cut across, ensuring that he's ahead of them. He just could go a pedestrian gallop. That's what the sectionals tell us. And then he was able to just gradually angle across and get himself to the front of affairs. And those horses that finished 1, 2, 3, Trawlerman, Alfred Boucher, Earl of Tyrone, were always prominent. There's Frankie. He's got across easily. He's not had to use up any petrol in doing that. He's done the right thing. It could have failed. It might not have worked if they'd gone hard towards his inside, and then he'd never got across. Then he'd have ended up 4 or 5 wide, but he's got across cheaply. Simple as that. Very cheaply indeed. Let's look at the principles at this point of the race. Here he is, Frankie. There's the winner. Alfred Boucher's the grey horse. There's Earl of Tyrone. So I would suggest that you wanted to be prominent in what was, according to the numbers, quite a steadily run affair. The finishing speed percentage was well over 100. I think it's about 107. They come home 7% stronger in the final part of the race than they ran the early part of it. So it was quite a steadily run Ebor. Normally you get a really strongly run race, but this was quite steady. And I think you mark up Alfred Boucher for what he did, because we'll see later on that he throws down a massive challenge, but he's a bit too far back. Here's the first, he's second, and here's the third. You really had to be handy. For example, Yukon Glen's run an absolute blinder. Here he is. He's normally held up. He finishes off to good effect, Yukon Glen, but he's never going to get involved off the fractions that they've gone here. Steadily run affair. Now you can compare this race with the Melrose over the same trip. Solcombe dipped under the Racing Post Standard in winning that race and was nearly 3 seconds quicker through the Melrose than they ran here in the Ebor. Now the sprint is on, and it's a very interesting finish. For at this point you would think that Earl of Tyrone is all over Trawlerman. Going very strongly as John Leaper throws a challenge up against the rail in the yellow cap. Earl of Tyrone going best. Here comes the grey, Alfred Boucher, to throw down a big challenge. And this is a massive effort from this horse, having won earlier in the week. But Trawlerman just keeps finding. And he's been transformed a little bit, this horse, since a hood has been put on. Since the hood's gone on, he really has turned his form around. He won last time, and now he's won again with the hood on. 2 from 2 wearing that hood. For all money, Alfred Boucher's won, but Trawlerman rallies and he finds a bit more, and he just gets up to deny the grey in the closing stages. What about the rest of them? We know what happened to the first 3. They were always prominent. They had a good tussle, but Get Shirty is the one that we need to keep an eye on. This horse finished off really strongly. We'll give him a sectional upgrade. He ran on very well in the closing stages, having been held up throughout the race. You can see him widest of all here, running on strongly, and I think that he is worthy of a bit of an upgrade, Get Shirty, and there might be a bit more to come from him down the line, but just the way the race was run, he couldn't get involved. Indeed, nothing that was held up could really get involved. Alfred Boucher getting to the front, and then Frankie getting Trawlerman to rally in the closing stages. And why could the horse rally? He rallied because he'd saved so much energy in the early strides. Frankie allowed to plough his own furrow and get across in front of the field without using up precious energy. Brilliant from Dettori. It panned out nicely for him, and Trawlerman is the winner of the Ebor. Okay, from York, let's go to Kempton Park on Tuesday for what was their 4 o'clock contest. It was a handicap over 6 furlongs. Willem Twee was 6-5 on. National Gallery was 6-1. Twilight Madness was 15-2. 17-2. Wonder Elzarm and Dream Composer a 12-1 shot. You may think that this is something of a strange choice to put in the verdict, but I think that in the winner, Willem Twee, we've got a very progressive, young and exciting sprinter. Came out of stall number 4. Second home was Wonder Elzarm, who came from stall number 1, and third home was Twilight Madness, who came from stall number 2. So low draws, as ever, best at Kempton over this sort of trip. Now, Willem Twee holds a big entry. He's entered in the Kipco Sprint on Champions Day at Ascot, which is very interesting because they obviously think quite a lot of this horse, and I think he was absolutely chucked in here in this handicap. He'd been a good winner to Doncaster prior to this, where the race was not strongly run. This was quite strongly run, and he was miles better than these. He won this off a mark of 84, but I put it to you that I think he's at least 100 horse, if not better. And he was really impressive. The speed he showed was tremendous. He was slightly compromised by being down on the inside, and he had to look for a bit of room. But once he gets it, he quickens up well. The 5th furlong, he went 11.29 seconds through that 5th furlong to get himself there, furlong pole. That point there, he's done 11.29. Now he just goes away and wins as he likes, pushed out by Danny Muscat, not giving him a hard time, and he's won pretty well. The final 3 furlongs, 34.76 seconds. That was a good effort. This race was quite strongly run, so it was run to suit him. But look at him pulling up there. Ears pricked. He's got loads in the tank. The only problem he had here was finding a seam to run in. And I think he's a really good sprinter, this horse. And one would like to add that on this day, and perhaps also recently, the track at Kempton's been riding quite deep. Standard to slow, it's officially described as, but horses have been getting tired late on. It's been quite hard work, and they've been struggling to quicken up because it is quite deep. So I do think that this winner, who has got a sharp turn of foot, is probably better than the bare result. I think he'd have been able to quicken even more sharply than he did if he'd got a sounder surface. But nonetheless, he's got the job done in good style. What of the vanquished? Well, Wonder Elzarm from stall 1 finished 2nd. And Wonder Elzarm was always up with the pace, always pushing it along in the early stages, and kept rolling Wonder Elzarm to finish 2nd. And I think Wonder Elzarm can win one of these should he not come up against a progressive young sprinter like he did on this occasion. But if he comes up against the sort of horses that finished in behind him and he's just got a field of them, he'll win soon, and I think he's suited by the way Kempton rides. So Wonder Elzarm, one to keep an eye on. But this horse, he's miles ahead of his mark. As I said, he won off 84. He's 100 plus all day long. And that man there, James Fanshawe, knows what to do when he's got a good sprinter on his hands. And I think this horse is going places. Let's go to Salisbury on Friday evening. The 6:35 was the Stonehenge Stakes. It was a listed race over a mile, and Flying Honours was the 4-11 favourite. Stormbuster 11-2, and it was big prices, the rest of them 12-1, right down to There's the Door at 100-1. And it was Flying Honours who duly obliged at the prohibitive odds of 4-11. He came out of stall number 4. James Doyle got all the way to Salisbury to ride this fella, and he got the better of Stormbuster, who came from 1. And the third home was Castle City, who came from 2. But really, all of the other horses in the race are irrelevant, because this horse, Flying Honours, is very good indeed. He was impressive when he won on his debut, and he has won as he liked here. He's won his last couple of races, the only 2 races he's running actually, by an aggregate of 15 lengths. And it's interesting that they're bringing him along very steadily indeed, this horse. I mean, they could have possibly gone to York with him. They could have gone for bigger targets, but it's a sort of softly approach with Flying Honours, and he might just go under the radar a little bit, because I think he's very good. He's got some lofty entries. He's in the National Stakes, he's in the Royal Lodge as well, both of those in September, and he's got a lovely pedigree. He's by Sea the Stars out of a Dubawi mare, and he promises to stay more than a mile. And here he does it very comfortably under James Doyle. This was an evenly run race. We got that from the course track sectionals. It's evidenced by the finishing speed percentage of 102.71%. So he's just come home just over 2% quicker in the final 3 furlongs than he ran the rest of the race. So quite evenly run, but he's picked up in really good style, and essentially he's been rated through even 12s by James Doyle here, and you can see the rest of them being rode along as he cruises up to them, and then he picks up pretty well his final 3 furlongs, 37.23 seconds, and that was fully a second and more quicker than his rivals. Such was his superiority. Now we can tell he's superior from the visuals, but we can tell also from the numbers, the course track sectionals on the Racing TV website, that if he's over a second quicker than his rivals in the final 3 furlongs, he is totally and utterly dominant. And you'd think there's a ton in the tank, loads more to come. Now what has he beaten? Well, I'm not too worried really, because I don't like to ask what a horse has beaten, rather to ask how fast he has run. And he's run very fast here and done it while still on the bridle for much of the contest. I don't know how good he is, it's impossible to tell, and James Doyle, when interviewed afterwards, said that, you know, he's a nice horse, it's just a listed race that he's won, and see where he goes from here. But surely bigger things await. Group 2, Group 1 possibly for him. He's got those 2 fancy entries that I mentioned, and one of those will surely be on the agenda for this guy. But they've got an embarrassment of riches, of course, haven't they, the Charlie Appleby team, so you wouldn't know exactly where they're going to go with him. But look at the way he picks up here, quickens up, puts them away. These are listed performers in behind, and it's just like a piece of work for this fella. And then James Doyle puts his hands down, and it's all over in a matter of strides. I think he's very good. I think he's going to go under the radar a little bit, this horse, and there might be a load more to come from him, and he'll certainly stay a bit further if needed, but a mile at the moment seems absolutely spot on. We must add that James Doyle took a nasty fall later on in the card when unfortunately Fox Vardy took a false step and he lost his life, and James took a nasty fall. So commiserations to the connections of Fox Vardy, and we hope that James is back riding very shortly. But that's why he went to Salisbury, to ride that really good 2-year-old. Hope you've enjoyed the verdict this week. We've seen lots of tremendous action at York. It was difficult to choose which races to pick, but there was no doubt about one race that had to be in this show, and it was the Juddmonte International and the sensational performance of Baaeed. See you next week.